The latest news is that John Edwards has endorsed Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton will continue to fight on, so this particular Democratic horse race will continue. And of course, we're all focused on that drama, at least the media is. I think it's important for us to recognize a few uncomfortable truths about what's to come. First of all, the Republican Party is in a very good position to steal this election, whether it's Clinton or Obama, who is the Democratic nominee, makes very little difference. The Republicans very much wanted Hillary Clinton to be the nominee. That's why they've been manipulating the results of the primaries throughout this season, ever since New Hampshire. They, I think, have worked out a very thorough playbook for representing a Clinton-McCain contest as an epic clash between Rambo and Hanoi Jane. And I think they think it's a real shame that they can't use that playbook. They'll probably have to live with smearing and demonizing Obama. But let's understand something about the race to come. Let's assume it's going to be Obama. There will be all kinds of racist innuendo and outright lying about him. The purpose of all that stuff is not to get John McCain elected. The purpose of that kind of dark propaganda is not to woo voters to McCain's side. The purpose is to provide a rationale to explain how it is that John McCain could win, to everybody's amazement. This is a guy who, I will say with perfect confidence, can't win an election legitimately in this country. He can't. Not with the economy in the shape it's in. And here's a guy who practically wears a sandwich board that says, I don't know anything about economics. People aren't going to vote for that. Not with the war we're in, which he staunchly champions, and not with a candidate who has a senior moment at least once a day, although those moments tend not to get reported. He can't win legitimately, which means that the Republican Party will have to steal the election yet again, and they're in a very good position to do this. If the media were doing its job, they would have made clear to us by now that the election system in this country is in even greater shambles than it was in the last election. And the Republican Party, which is pretty much the same thing as the Bush regime, has been taking a lot of very meaningful steps to prevent a Democratic victory in the fall, or at least, let's say this, to make it that much less likely that enough Democrats could either register to vote or have their votes counted for a Democratic victory to emerge. We all know about the Indiana photo ID law that the Supreme Court upheld, which will significantly narrow the franchise in Indiana by requiring people to have state-issued photo IDs, which a lot of poorer Indianans can't afford. Now there's talk in Missouri about a law requiring people to have proof of citizenship in order to vote. Now, all this stuff represents a return to some of the worst exclusionary practices of the 19th century, but the fact is they do these things, the Republicans, for a reason. They do them because they work. The Department of Justice has been pressuring states nationwide to conduct voter purges in Democratic districts only. This has been ongoing. The DOJ has also been pressuring the states to be much stricter in its acceptance of provisional ballots. We have electronic voting machines, the same old machines in most of the country now, and I could go on. The fact is they're in a very good position to steal it, and this means that people must be prepared to get out there and vote, because a high turnout is that much harder to overcome through fraudulent means. And people must also monitor the election wherever they live really, really aggressively, and make a tremendous amount of noise when things go wrong. In order to monitor the election effectively, you have to know your rights, and you have to know the election laws, the regulations. First of all, make sure you're duly registered and that you have proof of your own registration. You also ought to bring a cell phone or video camera and collect visual evidence of whatever it is that's going on there. You might want to stand outside the polling place and jot down people's accounts of what they've gone through, because I suspect you're going to be with a lot of people who show up to vote expecting to vote and are told they can't. We need records of that kind of thing. We have to be psychologically prepared for yet another surprise Republican win, because if we are thus prepared, we'll be that much less likely to collapse when it happens. Remember 2004, after Kerry's very swift concession, a whole lot of people in this country just kind of collapsed, right? They just threw in the towel and slunk away defeated and felt outnumbered by the far right, which was a big mistake because it wasn't true. And worse yet, it just sapped everybody's willingness to resist or to protest. This time I think the fight will start on election day, not end then. Therefore people have to be fit for that. Now, I wish that were the end of this commentary. I wish I could stop there, but I have to open it out onto further and darker territory. Because the fact of the matter is that this regime cannot afford to give up power. They can't. Not only do they crave power, as all power mongers do, but they can't afford to give up power because they are extremely vulnerable to prosecution on many fronts. These people have broken a lot of major laws. I mean, they are multiple felons, and they're looking at serious jail time. I mean, they've committed war crimes. It's arguable that they've committed treason, by outing Valerie Plame and so on. Any thorough investigation of what these people have been up to is going to reveal, I think, staggering lists of crimes that will probably surprise even people like me once they've seen the light of day. So they have a very good reason to try to steal the election. However, you can't steal any election. And if they can't get within 10 points of winning over Obama, they're going to have to do something else. And I wish I were only speculating, but if you've been following the news as carefully as one should, you will know that this regime has lately been taking some very serious steps in the direction of martial law.